It's been quite a while since we've been back in this studio, but I'm happy to be back. It's going to be great to do an actual live interview. Luckily, we were socially distanced, but hey, it's going to be fun nonetheless. My name is Travis Lang. Welcome to Inside IUE Sports, where we get to talk with coaches and players about anything and everything in general. I have a coach that has risen through the ranks recently. His name is Jacob Rankin, and he's part of the IU East tennis team. So Jacob, first of all, just tell us briefly where you're from and how you got started with tennis in general.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Thanks for having me. So I am actually originally from Richmond, Indiana. Well, right outside Fountain City. Played my high school tennis at Northeastern, just 7 miles up 27. And was lucky enough to have a good start to tennis. Didn't really start taking it too seriously until middle high school. But, being from Indiana, basketball was the thing, but was a little too short for that. So decided to take tennis a little more seriously and fell in love with the game. And then was lucky enough to get good enough to go to college and play, and stayed within Indiana, played at 2 different universities throughout college. And then graduated from Indiana Wesleyan, where had a pretty good career. My senior year, we finished, I think, 19th or 20th in the country. I was a middle of the lineup kind of performer for them, and it was all conference. Made it to the national tournament, and I had an inkling early on in college that I wanted to do something with coaching. My uncle was a collegiate tennis coach as well. And he was a huge influencer in my tennis life and in my personal life. And so it made me want to do that. Decided to pursue my master's of coaching and athletic administration in Irvine, California at Concordia University, Irvine. Was lucky enough to be an assistant coach for their women's program. Very, very strong Division II program out there. And just really fell in love with it. Completed my master's quicker than the normal route. I think I finished it in 15 months. Really enjoyed that program, learned a ton, and amidst that, received an opportunity. Felt as if I was ready to maybe move on and look for a head coaching position or potentially, a full-time assistant position, and was lucky enough to get a call from Coach Ratchford right before taking a position somewhere else in Pennsylvania, and knew immediately that I wanted to come back here as an assistant for Coach Ratchford and learn. And after the first year here, it was kind of the expectation. He had let me know that he was looking to retire or at least move into potentially an assistant role. So it was a perfect situation for me and for him, and we already had history together. We knew each other since I was from around here, and just coming home felt right. I was really fortunate to come in, be given the resources to hopefully make this program better and build upon what Coach Ratchford has done. And I'm just really, really excited to be here. Didn't get to complete a full season as an assistant last year, so very, very hopeful for the spring as my first season really being here and my first season as a head coach.
Well, you have the experience at least. I mean, not only do you have formal teaching, but you also have some player experience from your time playing in college. What did you learn playing for 2 different teams?
Yeah, a variety of coaching perspectives was one of the ones I really liked. My head coaches in college were vastly different, both great coaches, but I like to think that I've learned from all of the coaches I've been around, whether that be as a player or as an assistant out in California, or my uncle who's a collegiate coach, and I'm trying to put all of the good things together and make one really good program. But I'm still learning and, trying to have mentors. I still talk with other coaches that are older than me and have been in it longer than me on a weekly basis, and I'm trying to learn. It was just neat to be able to be a part of 2 programs that were both great, both national contenders at times, and
Well, and now you get to be part of a different team as a head coach. It's got to be a weird transition moving from an assistant to head coach. How does that transition work, so to speak?
Paperwork, kind of, yeah. But it was a really smooth transition, even amidst COVID. Things went very well. We were able to, make that switch. I think it was in April, maybe March, early May, something like that. And Coach Radford officially handed the reins over. And yeah, it went very well. I would say around January or February, I was starting to do the full-time recruiting and kind of really taking on that role as it was, Coach and I were communicating on what the next season looked like. So the transition went very smooth, yeah.
And I wonder, too, about the recruiting. I know recruiting is different for every single sport.
Right.
But is that a strenuous process, at least from your experience?
It is. It's a lot of, I don't have a set schedule. I might be taking a recruiting call at 2 a.m. Because of time change. A lot of our players are international. So it's just a lot of time and effort put into it, trying to make connections with recruits and giving them a warm welcome and a warm feeling about IU East, which isn't hard. We have a great university here. So, yeah, it's definitely tough, but it's one of my favorite parts of the job.
And apparently you've done pretty well because it seems like there are nothing but recruits on these upcoming teams.
Yeah.
So what are some goals or aspirations you have for the upcoming season for these two teams?
To put it as bluntly as possible, to win conference, to get a top 20 national ranking, to go to the national tournament, and to have the best season IU East has ever had on the tennis side, in the men's or women's. And there's, a part of coaching that you set aside, kind of unrealistic goals, and you set realistic goals. And those just mentioned are very realistic for the team and the personnel we have in place. And I couldn't be more excited about it. Yeah.
And one of the most important things, too, about winning, or at least trying to win, is the coaching style, because the coach can make or break a team sometimes. How would you describe yourself both technically and personality-wise when it comes to your coaching?
Yeah, a lot of college coaching, you're not bringing players in and changing the way they play the game technically that often. It's more so fine-tuning on little things and a lot of mental training. And I have good experience within my master's learning about sports psychology, and it was my favorite aspect of the game as a player. So getting to teach these players who are very, very talented how to really grasp and hone in on that talent, and also pair that with the mental strength is one of my favorite things to do. And that kind of goes into my personality as well. I think I have a good way of finding connections with each player. You can't coach any two players the same, so you have to find a connection, find a way to get through to them, find a way when they're having a bad day to still get them to talk to you and be open to listening. And that truly is my favorite part of the job, the human connection, the relationships I get to build with my players, whether that be on court, having a conversation about, closing out sets, or, in the van rides back, being goofy, listening to them, in the back, being hilarious at times. But it's, that's the best part of the job.
So you say language and culture are neither a barrier?
No, not at all. We don't really have trouble with that. They all, even our international players, they come in, they're very open to learning about our culture. We're open to learning about their culture. Their English is always great, and we have fun with it. They teach us things about their home countries, and even eat meals, kind of from their nationalities. So it's a fun part of the job too. I love learning about new cultures. I travel a lot myself. That's kind of one of the things I love to do in spare time. So it's kind of like an added bonus. Yeah.
And speaking of the goals and aspirations and the players you work with, have you had any, I guess, standout moments in your career as not only both an assistant coach, but then hopefully as a head coach moving forward?
Yeah, I would say even though it was not a good time for the world, though the months where COVID hit and the pandemic happened were a huge couple months recruiting-wise. I was able to really make some good connections with some players and bring in, some players that I think are going to be top-notch for us, and not just one or two of them, but 5 or 6 of them on both sides. And so that was, I would say, what felt to be the biggest accomplishment so far in my coaching career, but it means nothing until we prove it as athletes and as a team. You can have all the best players, but you have to come together and put together a full season, and that starts with culture and things of that nature. So I'm just excited to play some tennis with them,
I mean, I don't blame you, honestly, because
Yeah,
there really hasn't been much
it's been
playing.
a while, yeah.
So finally, I have to ask, with all of these new players coming in, new prospects, there will always be new recruits. If there's somebody out there looking for a college to play at, or maybe they're even considering IU East as a college to play tennis at, what are some tips or tricks that you can recommend to those promising players?
Yeah, my recruiting philosophy is a little different sometimes. Some coaches like to put deadlines and kind of put some pressure onto recruits because sometimes they need that little push to make that decision. I just encourage all of my recruits to look very closely into several different universities because I think after talking with many different teams and coaches and looking at the various academic options and the costs of going here, I think when you pair it up into a package, IU East will more often than not be the best choice for most of these players I'm talking to. Sometimes dependent upon academic programs, that doesn't happen, and I want them to find that out. I don't want them to make a decision and then realize, oh, they don't have the program I'm looking for or something like that. But I just like to be as helpful as I can through that process for them. I not long ago was in that process, and it's incredibly stressful. So I'm here for that. I'm not just this coach trying to get you to come to this school. I want you to find the right fit for you, and I hope that can be us, and I think it will be once you learn more about IU East and the tennis team. And
well, thank you so much, Jacob, for being on. Yeah. It's so great to actually interview somebody in person. It just feels weird doing it any other way.
It feels weird to be here, yeah. Yeah, in person.
Yeah, but it's a blessing nonetheless. So good luck with the upcoming season, maybe, if COVID still isn't a factor then. And hey, get some dubs, because we need them.
Thank you.
Stick around, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back here on Inside IU East Sports.